na condition bend crayfish. So some students, they end up renting expensive houses off campus. Not because they plan to, but because, hey, there's a first come, first serve basis on which hostel accommodation is being issued or allotted. And so that happens. And then some others get the hostel accommodation, but then they get to pay double the price to people who have gone to pay for this or for these accommodation that, the spaces that are available. And they're not necessarily using the spaces. They go and pay ahead of time and they hold on to it. And so when the students are coming back to school, they resell the hostel spaces to them. Yeah, I heard about this today. I mean, I've never really known that something like this actually exists until someone mentioned it. And then I had to ask other people around me, and they said, yes, it's normal. Like, the response I got was more like, it's a normal thing now. That's what they do. The first time I heard about this was a few years ago when we did some kind of news reports in this regard, but I didn't really pay attention. I felt like, okay, it was just what that particular university here in Rivers State. So I thought it was just them that had that problem. I didn't know it was widespread. I didn't know that it was a thing all over Nigeria. But that's not necessarily the focus of the conversation today. It's part of it, all right? So right now at the Rivers State University, students are struggling because the school hostels are still closed 2 months into the session. And yes, we've done a story in this regard as well, trying to find out what exactly is the problem, why is this happening, and what can be done. So that's what we'll be talking about. So we'll be talking about how this kind of crisis affects students. Imagine someone who has resumed, who has left home and has gone back to school for the academic year, and they can't concentrate because perhaps they're squatting with someone somewhere, and the person you're squatting with is not expecting anybody to come and squat with them. They just want to live alone, maybe. Or maybe they already have someone they're, living with, and then you come to squat. It's not palatable on both ends. The person who is squatting the person and accommodating the squatter and the squatter. And some of them who have to now go and pay for an off-campus house or apartment. Something they never really budgeted for. And every other thing around it. So how this kind of crisis affects students is what I would like us to discuss. And then the people who are making money from this, I really do not understand. Yeah, someone might say, well, it's business. But I do not see business in this thing. I don't see it as business. I see this as fraud. Yeah, that's what it is to me. It's racketeering. That's what it is. So people who are making money from this crisis, there's not enough space, but then there are people who are still making money from it. And then, of course, I don't like to talk about problems and then leave it at that. The best way to fix hostel problems in our tertiary institutions or universities, whichever one it is you're attending or your child is attending, polytechnic, college of education, whichever. So I'm going to take this story. Of course, we're having this conversation till 1 o'clock. I have the news, and at 1:10 there's a program coming up. So afterwards we'll wrap up. All right, and then 2 o'clock we have the news update. After the news update, we're going to have Pastor Wisdom Osiri here on air to talk on family matters. So that's basically the show today. So from the news that we had, this was last week, that was when we did this particular story. Some students of the Rivers State University, RSU, have cried out over the continued closure of school hostels 2 months after it's resumed for a new academic session. Now, they told our correspondents that the delayed allocation of hostels amid the nation's economic challenge is taking a toll on them. And they also accused the school management of not being proactive with the ongoing renovation of the hostels. So on one hand, there's a renovation that's happening there. I don't know if they're done now or if they're still doing it. So that's one of the things that the students mentioned. Let's just hear from the students.
For the open and close, they should make the process more open. They should upgrade their portal so that students can be able to book hostel.
SUG and the management, they should work hand in hand. Since school have resumed almost 2 months, they've not opened the hostel, and it's pretty bad, and we are facing a lot.
The administration is not fair to the students when it comes to hostel. Up till now, February, lecture have started since, but have not opened the hostel for students to pack in. Renovation would have been done last year, but they started January, and now it's February. No students have packed in.
I'm a law student. When I go home now, I'll be very tired. I will still have to do things at home. This thing has been happening for 1 month, so it's not really funny at all. They should do something about it.
The renovation can actually start earlier before we resume.
Okay, so that's on one hand, and what's this called now? SUG president, Student Union Government President of RSU, spoke on this. His name is Rizzi Owabie, and he said it's funding for hostel renovation that is a problem. He said it's generated from the early payment of tuition fees, and so he says the school management actually happens to do this annual renovation of hostels. Like every year, they have to renovate the hostels. Of course, fix one or two things that the students may have spoiled and repaint and all of that stuff. Well, let's hear what he said.
We have followed up this matter with the school management. In their words, it is not possible. Money goes into a lot of things. That's why we use the money that they pay in the first month of resumption to renovate the hostel. I will not blame my students, but to an extent, these students destroy a lot of things. Each year, we record broken bungs. They deliberately remove the fans, the sockets. They spoil a lot of things. We tell them don't cook in hostel. They cook in hostel. Now, when they destroy it, you see that there's no money left for the school to renovate. Immediately, they have gone. If you enter our toilets, things have been fixed, taps and all of that. You will notice that by the end of this year, things will be spoiled.
Interesting. And so he now went further to say something else, right? He appealed to the governor, Simenalai Fubara, to help build additional hostels across the 3 campuses of the institution. Now, he said something. He said that they have about 48,000 students or so that need the hostel spaces, but the school only has about 4,000 spaces to offer them. Let's just hear the way he said it.
RSU have roughly 4,000 bed space, and we have close to 38,000 students, and we admitted roughly 8,000 to 10,000 of year 1. So if we're looking at 4,000 space for 8,000 students, who do we pay priority to? It is the person that is fast in booking that can get space. Our governor, sir, we are pleading that you should come to our schools, not just our main campus, but our satellite campuses do not have enough bed space. We do not have enough hostel there, but we have land mass. So please, we are pleading that you come and build more hostels for us. It will make life comfortable and conducive for our students.
All right, so there you have it. And then I also told you that we were getting feelers that hostel racketeering is also one of the problems causing could be one of the problems causing the delayed allocation of hostel spaces, right? So you see a lot of things lined up there. Renovation, which of course they say money has to come from the students. When they pay their fees, renovation can happen. And at the end of the day, they're the ones who also spoil the hostel or spoil the things in the hostel. So yeah. And then there's not enough space, actually. Right? And so my questions are, the very first one I'm asking is, what is the best housing option for students amid limited hostel space? Because that is the current situation on ground. So what is the best housing option for students at this point? And then second of all, yes, let's talk about how the hostel shortage at RSU or any other school is affecting students. You can also talk to me if you have your child, your ward who's going to any of these schools, or even you, perhaps you're the one who's affected. You now have to go to school from home. Whereas it will be better if you were there in the school, within the school environment. And then last one is what can be done about the high cost of getting a hostel space rather. That's for areas or for places where the issue is this hostel racketeering. Well, let's talk. I'd like to hear from you. We're live on Facebook though, Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. Get on there and drop your comments. All right, for now, call in 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0003. And then you can send a message via WhatsApp to 0809 030 6416, 0809 030 6416. Let's hear from you. Please remember when you call in, turn off your radio set so that we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much. All right, we have John calling from GRA. Hello, John. Welcome.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Papa.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, in my days, concerning this process, my university give priority to year one and final year. They give, let's say, 30% to year one, 20% to final year, and 50% to year one, at another level. But however, in an event where you cannot maybe pick up for whatever reason, because accommodation can be to all the incoming students, what I would suggest is just get a roommate as a student, look for a self home, and at least it will go a long way to assist you in terms of your privacy and maybe securing some of your items, food items, your clothing. A roommate and a self home, not a phone as a student.
Okay. Thank you very much for calling. So getting a roommate is what he says here. So how about you? What do you suggest as a best option at this point in time? Perhaps something that parents could also put into consideration when they're getting their children ready for the school year, for the semester, or what also students can bear in mind. All right. Thank you very much. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0002, or 0817-923-0007, 0817-923-0007. I'm taking messages on WhatsApp, so please send them to 0809-030-6416, 0809-030-6416. Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Zion from Port Harcourt. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Zion. Please go on.
One, the students should accept the fact that times are different. It's no longer Uhuru. They should first of all accept that. Then, from the angle of the parents, it's high time to also put an eye to the students or your child in year one. Who are their friends? Are they studying their books? Are they meeting up to the school's rules and regulations? Now, to the student, they themselves, who are your kind of friends? Let us don't forget, even the lecturers too have added money to something. Lecturers have also added more money to their textbooks. So do you think you want to have a carryover? Association. Take note of your association. The person I'm making my friend or the group of people I'm working with, are they there to promote me? Because let's be honest, we all want to cost now. Mind spending, frivolities, where you go and where you don't go. Now to the school responsibility, especially the school senate. What is your core mandate towards the students? Without lecturers, there are no students. Without students, there is no university. So are you there to protect this university, or you are there for extortion? These are the questions we should start asking ourselves. If not, there's going to have what to call VW, voluntary withdrawal. Because of what? The tensions students may be going through in school. Mr. Zion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Zion, for calling. All right. So I would like to hear from you, though. All right. There is a shortage of hostel space or hostel spaces at the university currently. And this is not the first place where such a thing is happening. And so the Students' Union government president says, we're only going to prioritize those who came first. So in a situation where you have about 8,000 to 10,000 students who need hostel accommodation and you only have 4,000, what is going to be the fate of the rest? How are they going to manage? Right? Remember now that there are parents who they are so not comfortable with having their kids live off campus. They would rather that their child lives within the school. Let's be in the school hostel. It's more like this is something we can control. Something we can hold on to. But when you say you're living off campus, where? Who are the people living in that environment? Right? What's the proximity to the school, wherever it is you're finding that accommodation? How are we sure that you will not get into trouble just because you were outside at a certain time because you have to go home, Because, students like to read within the school environment. I mean, when I was in school, people did that a lot. You go to a class and spend the night over there, and later on you go back to your hostel. It's mostly those of them who live in the hostel that do that. So people who live off campus, you might need extra people to go with you, for security and all that stuff. So we're thinking about also how this really affects the students. Really. Aliyu is calling from Eneka. Please go on.
Yes. Good afternoon, Constance.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Please, I want to contribute to the topic and discussion. I have a word in River State University, and it's not been very easy. I know how much I spend daily for them to go to school and come back. At least I spend close to 15,000 every week for the two of them that are there. And they have paid their fees, but they cannot get the best pay. My ward cannot book, because the extent of racketeering in the system is too high. That is only the professors that can book for students. But the students, they use their portal to pay their fees. But when it comes to book their accommodation, the best place, they cannot get access. And I heard one of the students say that first come, first serve. He paid fees and then they now renovate and get people the best place. If they want to actually do it right, why not they allocate it to the first students that pay? Because I know that my ward, they paid quite early when the school resumed, but they cannot access the portal to book to get a bed space. And lately that they told me that to get a bed space is about 160,000.
Interesting.
So why will you allocate a bed space to somebody who is not ready to stay in the campus, and then the person now sells it off at a very high rate? And so the school themselves, the management is not ready to do anything about it, because I'm sure they should be aware of what is happening in the system. Even the SPG president that is talking, he should be aware of what is happening in the system, but they're not ready to do anything. If you want to use somebody's money to renovate the system, the hostel accommodation, if the person says, why not you give the person a priority? Because you use the person's money to renovate the system, the accommodation. But
all right.
Students pay, and when it comes to allocating the bed space, they won't have access.
All right, Aliyu.
To the ones that are not ready to stay in the hostel.
Thank you, Aliyu. God's time from Onelga. Are you still there?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Go on.
Yeah, the issue is quite fascinating, because it has never been a low issue. The hostels are always issue. If you go to the hostel, you discover that the number of students who come from outside is high greater than the number of students who occupy the hostel. You see, I think the institutions in Nigeria should try as much as possible to look at the way to sort out this accommodation issue. Possibly building new hostels as being called upon by the FCC president. But where I tend to disagree with him is on the renovation. If the school has intention of renovating that place, I don't think the school should wait until the season-based school is. If you want very well, are you telling me that the school doesn't have account, or the school is running maybe on student pay with it? No, the school has budget, and the budget can be looked and possibly look a way to bring out these students up from where they are sitting. You see, I have two of my siblings in this school. They go from home, and I know how much I spend every day. But that shouldn't be an issue for me because, one, I don't even like public toilet, and they don't like it as well. You understand? So I try as much as possible to give them that ability. But the school management should up their game. If they want to renovate, they should renovate as quickly as possible. And if they want to allocate slots to park, they should be able to allot to those people who pay first. And if allotted to them, you check properly. If the students actually went to the hostel to leave, you will conduct an investigation, not allowing Tertiary. That will also hinder the student progress. Because imagine where they are being asked to pay 120,000 for birthday. You now ask yourself how much is even off campus. Now there's nothing to pay for off campus. But campus is always protective. It gives you that sense of belonging. It makes you go to class. It gives you that that information that those people stay out of campus. So the school management should up again.
All right. Thank you. Muriel from Okrika. Thank you for staying on the line.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, this is what we get. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Go on.
Okay. Well, this is what we get with the government facilities. You know, they have all the time to quickly do this painting, and yes, they'll just do it whenever and whatever, anyhow they like. And you know, when they finish painting, the students have to stay out for some time because you don't paint buildings and people go in immediately. So these are the issues. But when it comes to hostel, things in university, most times they give priority to the one student because these people don't know their way around. So they are just precious and they give priority to them. It's when they finish giving to the one, then they will now begin to shift shuffle it between SQG and mental presidents. All those people have their slots. Before you know, genuine people that really need it will not have it. And people that do business with these things. And most times that's the reason why people go into politics in school, because you get to have your shot, maybe one full space or one room for this department. Before you know, spaces are short now, and those people have to resell it at a very humongous rate to students that need it. And it's very unfortunate. Now, hostel spaces are very few. And that's why you see that in most of the schools, NDDC is building their own, even some philanthropists, little bricks, all those people, they build spaces for hostel universities. And these universities are still giving it out at a very high rate, you know, even though these buildings will be, even tech funds also do this, build hostel spaces for schools. And the university, you do business with it and still give it at a very high thing. But for me, I think one of the solutions to it is universities can allow, because they still have huge spaces, you know, empty land in school. If they allow private individuals to build this thing, build spaces, people are ready to come. That's why most people buy spaces outside. I will not allow my child to buy rent hostels spaces outside because it is very risky. So many girls have suffered rape, molestation through this. My daughter told me that their hostel mates, their classmates, you know, she and her sister stays outside. And before you know, I don't know, through their window, maybe they put something inside. They didn't know themselves. By the time they woke up in the morning, their windows were open, their doors were open, they made up. They didn't even know if the student girls were raped or they were just unconscious until people came to trap them. So it is very risky. But they should give way for people that want to do this thing, this business of build spaces. Allow them to come in. Since you have empty land, let them develop those places.
All right.
And people who can do business within the campuses with it. And you just give them the rate. They cannot go beyond this rate and they cannot go below this rate, you know. And it can go a long way to help solve the problem of lack of space. Thank you, MC.
All right, thank you. Dakuku from Bokweche, please do well to call back if you can. ID from Port Harcourt on WhatsApp says, if the government is not coming up with more hostels, the property owners around the campuses should liaise with property developers and government in respect to town planning, and old properties will be rebuilt into high-rise affordable hostel accommodations, and that can take care of 50% of the students' population, my opinion. All right, thank you, ID. And then another person here, Samuel the Psalmist, says, good afternoon. These are the areas I think the government should have paid attention to instead of changing educational formation, the welfare of teachers and students, infrastructure, and others. All right, thank you. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0002, and 0817-923-0003. That's for the calls. For your WhatsApp message, you can send it to 0809-030-6416. And you can also get on Facebook and drop your comments right there. We're live on Facebook. I'll read your comments. Thank you. Felix from Iwofe says, good afternoon, Constance. The answer to your question is simple. The government should build more spaces. If you go to most of these universities or polytechnics, you will see vast amounts of land wasting with no structures on them. School has never been the priority of any politician. That's why doing the needful seems like a tall dream. That's from Felix. All right. Thank you very much. So far, I think I like the ideas, right? The idea of getting people, the people who can develop the lands, come in and build within the school premises. But this is the amount of money you can collect from the students. You will not go above this, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. Because this issue of having a lot of students on ground, but they do not have enough space to accommodate them. It's crazy, really. And then it's one thing to also have this hostel accommodation or these hostel accommodations, and then they're not even comfortable. Like the man who called in to say that his kids even complain about the toilets. Like basic things cannot just be made available and made enough, you know. You can have a hostel and then there's one bathroom, one toilet for 100 students. You're expecting a miracle to happen for it to be in good shape. Like just have enough of these things, right? Someone here, ID says, even LASU authorities offered land to developers inside the Ojo campus, and developers are providing hostels with regulated rents. ID from Port Harcourt. Thank you very much. Thank you for these, what do I call them now? Suggestions. Patrick from Eche. Welcome aboard.
Yes, good afternoon, Pastor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, the issue of our grant concerning hostel. I think government is one of the major problems we have in this country. Now, government will give instruction that nobody should come and build more hostels. And they cannot even provide a hostel to accommodate the students they have. On my own suggestion, anybody that are willing, they should give chance for the people to build. So far, they are ready to build the students and accommodate. So what they will do there is to put a rate on the minimum they will pay, so that they will help the students, and not by buying what they are not willing to do. So they should give chance for people that is ready to do it, so that the students can be accommodated. They are suffering. Trying to get the accommodation in the campus is not an easy thing now. And if people are willing to do that, government are blocking it. They should give room for people that are ready to do it, so that students can be accommodated. Thank you very much. I'm Amadi Patrick from Meche.
All right. Thank you very much, Amadi Patrick, for calling. You know, there are so many questions, right, that we could actually ask regarding this conversation right now, or this issue. You know, when I was listening to the SUG president talking, I was like, I hope this is not where they are making this appeal. I hope it is not on radio. I hope it is not just on radio. I hope they've gone some good steps ahead to ensure that their call for more hostels, you know, to provide the solutions, has actually really gotten to the ears that should hear it. And beyond going to the governor or going to the state government, right? The people who have called in to mention, some of these philanthropists, these are some of the things they do. So writing to some of them is also another way to do that. It's also something else that they could do. Because I'm pretty sure that the student who has already prepared, a new semester has begun and we're going back to school, and now they are stuck. They have to go to school from home every day. Or more. Have you met the traffic on the road in this Port Harcourt? The traffic no be here. Oh. And then after all of that hurdle, going from one class to another, and after all of that, you now find yourself trying to drag yourself to get back home. What time do you have to read? You've not even relaxed. You've not even rested from the many activities of the day. Just going and coming back alone. The time you spend commuting alone. The stress. Yeah, someone might say, well, it's part of life. It's part of life. But when something can actually be knocked off, can be removed, when a particular obstacle can actually be removed and life made easier so that we can achieve the same goal that we're set out to achieve, how about we make that possible? Augustine is calling from Rukboku. Hello, Augustine.
All right. Good afternoon, Constance.
Good afternoon, sir.
All right. First of all, I am a graduate of Rivers State University.
All right.
And I had first-hand experience of people in being just like we have mentioned, getting hotel space in universities these days is very hectic. And I will use Rivers State University as the case study because that's where I graduated from. And just like we have mentioned that priority is being given to year one students and final year students. That's true. That is what they do. But the thing is, every year, this situation of students paying transport coming from the home because the university has to renovate the hostel, it has been recurrent. It is not something that just started happening. I did engineering, so I spent 5 years in the school, and all through those 5 years, I stayed in the hostel. And like I said, I experienced this same thing all through my stay in Rivers State University. Each time the school keeps giving excuse of money for renovating the hostel, that they have to renovate before we move in. Is it that they don't have the fund to do this thing before it's time for students to move in? Because this renovation, if you would make some investigations, you will discover that this renovation just started a few weeks ago. And this renovation they are talking about are just mere, what they do is just to repaint, change taps, and put sockets. That's all. They don't do anything more than that. Sometimes they just change the nets on the windows. This is something I see. In short, some students, some of us, when we were in school, we usually do the manual labor. They hire us to do this painting and some of these jobs. You understand? So this thing is a very simple something that I believe if the school management wanted to solve, they would have solved it. They make it look like it is rocket science, whereas nowadays people are breaking down rocket science and making it look simple to us. It's unfortunate that the people in charge of these things in the school are professors. The Dean of Students Affairs of Rivers State University today is a professor. Professor Opara, that's his name. There is also an office called the head of hostels office. There are portals. There are wardens for each hostel. Each hostel has a warden. These people are professors. These people are PhD degree holders. Yet they make this whole process look so difficult, as if it is something that will take 10 years to solve. The process of getting this hostel, just like you said, there's a hostel called NDDC Hostel in Arresti. And before I left, I don't know about now, it was booked for about 40-something thousand naira. It was for girls. And you find a situation where girls will buy this hostel, they will book, and at the end of the day, they will sell it out at the rate of 150. Some even have the mind, the audacity to tell you that If you don't bring 200,000, they are not selling.
Wow.
And people will pay.
Wow. Augustine, thank you so much for sharing. I wish I could have, been able to keep you longer, but we have to go now. We have the news coming up, trending stories, and afterwards we'll wrap up this conversation. But don't forget, we have something in between, a recorded program for 110. Do stay tuned.